They said genius belongs to teams, to institutions, to the we. But 6 years of breakthroughs taught me something different. Sometimes the best ideas are born alone, then stolen in broad daylight. I didn't scream when he threw the coffee. I didn't fight when he grabbed the patent folder from my hands. I just walked out with burn marks on my cheek and proof in my pocket. And 1 week later, we were both on the front page, but for very different reasons. What kind of man hurls hot coffee and still thinks he can silence you? The coffee wasn't cold. I felt the liquid fire hit my cheek and drip down onto my lab coat. The smell hit second, burnt, bitter, and humiliating. Rick Delaney stood behind his desk mug. Still in hand, face red and jaw clenched. You will give Nixon Labs access to that patent, Aubrey. Or I'll make sure you never work in this field again. 6 years. I'd spent 6 years solving the impossible for this company, creating devices that made millions, saving lives with ideas they didn't even understand. But none of that mattered now. I reached up, wiped the coffee from my face with my sleeve, and said the quietest word in the room. No. He blinked like he'd misheard. I grabbed my bag from the chair and headed for the door. You're making a mistake, he shouted. This is career suicide. I didn't flinch. Didn't turn. He had no idea what he'd just thrown away. What he burned wasn't just coffee. It was Nixon Labs' future. And in a locked drawer back home, I had all the proof. What do you build when no one believes in your dream but you? The garage smelled like solder and possibility. I'd cleared it out the night Rick called my invention comic book science. That night, something in me snapped. If Nixon Labs wouldn't back my idea, I'd back it myself. By day, I was their loyal engineer, clocking in, nodding through meetings, smiling at people who never saw me. By night, I was someone else entirely. The lights of my garage flicked on like runway lights, guiding me toward something bigger. I didn't need $1 billion lab. I had open-source code, recycled parts, and a vision. My DNA repair device wasn't a theory, it was becoming real. The first prototype was rough, no bigger than a pack of gum. But it worked. On tissue samples, it could locate genetic defects with shocking accuracy. I documented everything: timestamps, receipts, video logs. If Nixon Labs ever came for me, I'd be ready. They'd rejected the idea. Now they couldn't touch it. 3 weeks in the news, broke. Helix Tech, our biggest competitor, had launched a device that could scan DNA for disease markers. Revolutionary headlines screamed. A game changer. I watched their press conference on my laptop, fingers stained with solder, and I smiled. Because while their device could detect a problem, mine could fix it. They had the camera. I had the edit button. I worked faster after that. I'd seen the future, and it wasn't in Nixon Labs' boardroom. It was under a bare bulb in my garage, humming with potential. Then came the patent. I filed quietly using my own lawyer, Janet Chen. She was sharp, specialized in IP, and believed in my vision. You're doing the right thing, she told me. Protect it now. They'll come for it later. She didn't say who. She didn't have to. By the time Rick summoned me to his office again, my device was nearly complete. My documentation was airtight. My legal backing solid. All that remained was the moment I'd say no. Again, and this time they'd have even more to lose. Would you give back your idea just because they suddenly believe in it? Rick's secretary called me in like it was any other day. He wants to revisit your DNA device pitch. That sentence alone felt like a slap. 3 months ago, I was a joke in his office. Now, with Helix Tech's success all over the news, suddenly my comic book science was worth another look. I walked in calmly. Rick was pacing, too energized to sit. Aubrey. I've been thinking, he said, that fake charm coding his words. Maybe there's something to your idea after all. If Helix Tech is making noise, we should too. I kept my expression flat. Already developed it. His eyes lit up like a kid spotting candy. Really amazing. When can you present it? We'll manufacture right away. You can't. I cut in. The pause was sharp. What do you mean we can't? I mean, it's mine. I built it on my own time, in my own garage, with my own resources. He blinked. That's not how this works. I reached into my folder, laid the printouts on his desk. Timestamps, material receipts, even video logs, all neatly sorted. Oh, and I filed for a patent, I added. 3 weeks ago. It's been approved. Rick stared at the documents like they were written in alien code. His face shifted greed to disbelief to fury. Aubrey Nixon Labs invested 6 years in you. We developed your career. You owe us. No, I said. You paid me a salary. I delivered. We're even. He tried again now, smooth talking. We'll offer a bonus, a promotion. This could be big for both of us. You had your chance, I said, quietly packing up the papers. You laughed at it. Now it's mine. I left him, frozen lips parted, unable to process that the loyal engineer had outplayed him. What if the same man who mocked you is now offering money? Rick's tone changed faster than a flipped switch. The day after I showed him the patent documents, I got a calendar invite from HR. Not legal, not compliance, HR. I walked in expecting a trap and got a velvet couch, bottled water, and Rick already waiting with a practiced smile. Aubrey, he said, standing to shake my hand. First, I want to sincerely apologize for our last meeting. Emotions were high. That's what he called throwing coffee at my face. Noted. He gestured for me to sit. Let's talk future. I know we got off on the wrong foot, but we're ready to make this right. He slid a document across the table. It was a contract, short and shiny. In exchange for full ownership of the patent, Nixon Labs would give me a $20,000 bonus, a public-facing title, and a company car. I didn't even touch the paper. You think that buys 6 years of my work and a technology that could change genetic medicine? It's a gesture, he said, trying to sound reasonable. A starting point. I shook my head. You want to buy my silence, Rick. But this is bigger than office politics. His smile tightened. Look, we both know you use knowledge gained here. That puts us in gray territory. You want lawyers involved? I met his eyes. Mine already is. Silence. Then the mask slipped. Rick leaned forward, voice low. Let me be very clear. If you walk out of here with that device and start shopping it around, I will bury you. We'll tie you up in court for years. You won't work in this industry again. I didn't flinch. You already tried to bury me, Rick. You just picked the wrong girl. I stood up. You had your chance. 3 months ago when I handed you this idea. You laughed. I built it myself. I own it, and I'm not selling it to the man who threw scalding coffee at me. He stood too, but slower now. His eyes read desperate, searched for something to latch onto. You're making a mistake, he warned. You'll regret this. I gave him the smallest smile. Maybe, but not today. As I walked out of HR, the receptionist didn't meet my eyes. She'd probably heard everything. Back at my desk, I opened my laptop and backed up every single file again. Triple encrypted, multiple cloud accounts, off-site backup. I wasn't paranoid. I was prepared. Rick had made one thing clear. This wasn't just personal, now it was war. And he had no idea how far I was willing to go to protect what I built. What happens when your silence meets the world's megaphone? I hadn't said a word publicly. Not yet, but someone else had. The video surfaced 3 days after the HR meeting. It appeared quietly on a subreddit for corporate whistleblowers, a security camera angle inside Rick's office, dated and time-stamped. The moment the mug flew. The splatter. My stunned face. His words. This is what happens when you betray the company. I stared at it in my kitchen at 2 a.m., heart pounding. 10 hours later, it had 2 million views. By noon, Coffeegate was trending. I didn't post it. I didn't need to. The internet did what the legal system hadn't yet exposed him. Comments exploded across every platform: Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit, even TikTok. This is assault. She should sue. Nixon Labs is done. Rick's words were memified. My image standing there, coffee-stained and calm, became an emblem. I wasn't just a woman who got assaulted. I was the one who walked out with a plan. By 3 p.m., a journalist from Wired emailed me for comment. An hour after that, TechCrunch called. I didn't answer either yet. Instead, I called Janet. They posted it, she said, stunned. Yeah. Did you release the video? No. Good. That makes it even better. You're not retaliating, you're responding. Then came the press conference. No, not mine, Rick's. Nixon Labs scrambled together a PR stunt within 24 hours. Their spokesperson, a woman I'd never met, stood stiffly behind a podium. The incident involving one of our senior engineers and an executive is under internal investigation. Nixon Labs remains committed to integrity and innovation. The comments on the live stream were savage. I still hadn't said a word. That night, my phone buzzed with a private message from Sarah, my old coworker. "You saw it." "Yeah." "He's in meetings all day. Legal's in chaos." Then she added, "Someone said the board is demanding his resignation." My heart didn't race. It settled. The next morning, I agreed to the TechCrunch interview. "Is it true your boss threw coffee at you over a patent?" the reporter asked. "Yes." "And did you invent a device that could potentially treat genetic diseases?" "I did." "And you filed the patent before Nixon Labs ever supported it?" "Yes." That article was shared 10,000 times in under an hour. That's when investors started calling. Not Nixon's, mine. Emails flooded in hedge funds, medical nonprofits, biotech VCs. People wanted to know if I needed funding, if I wanted to start a company, if they could help me fight back. I was no longer a lone engineer. I was a movement. And Rick. He was quiet now. The mug he threw was just ceramic. But the moment captured on tape, it shattered something much bigger. His credibility. Nixon Labs' polished exterior. The industry's habit of dismissing women with ideas too big to control. I didn't post the footage. I didn't scream. I just let the tape roll, and the world answered louder than I ever could. Would you fight louder or let the cameras speak for you? I didn't check my phone until mid-morning. I was too busy scrubbing coffee stains off my skin and trying not to think about Rick's face when he realized the security cameras had caught it all. But when I finally did, my notifications had exploded. Hundreds of unread messages, dozens of missed calls, and then Sarah's text, "Aubrey, you're going viral." I opened the link she sent. There it was, clear as day. The footage from Rick's office, my face calm, my voice low. Then Rick shouting, "The coffee." The moment it hit me. And the internet saw everything. Within hours, the video had been reposted on every major platform. The title alone packed a punch: "Boss throws coffee at engineer who refused to sell patent." Over 1 million views before lunch. The comment section read like a courtroom. And the verdict was unanimous. This is assault. She should press charges. What kind of psycho throws coffee at someone? Give her the Nobel Prize and fire the guy. Somewhere between panic and power, I felt something shift. The humiliation I'd felt in Rick's office, burning my cheeks, staining my blouse, was being transmuted into something I didn't expect: public outrage, solidarity, momentum. My inbox bursting with media inquiries, tech journalists, ethics bloggers, even a morning show producer. They didn't just want my side of the story, they wanted to know what I had invented. Then came the call. "Hi, is this Aubrey Lang? I'm Claire from TechCrunch. We're covering the incident. Would you speak to us?" I hesitated. I'd never spoken to the press, but Claire's voice was calm, respectful. And maybe it was time. So I told her about the prototype, the months in my garage, the science, the risk, the dream, and about the coffee, every drop of it. The article ran that afternoon. Headline: Engineer claims breakthrough DNA device was assaulted after refusing to hand over patent. By nightfall, I wasn't just a name in the comments section. I was trending. Coffeegate. That's what they were calling it. And I didn't start it, but I wasn't going to run from it either. A CNN producer called. Then the BBC. Someone tagged me in a TikTok explaining my invention with animation and pop music. Meanwhile, Nixon Labs was scrambling. They issued a statement: "The video has been taken out of context. We are investigating the matter internally." Too late. The world had already picked a side. And this time, for once, it was mine. As I watched the chaos swirl from my living room, one thing became very clear: I had been underestimated for too long. Now the world was watching, and I had no intention of staying quiet. What's your invention really worth after 1 million people have watched it burn? The meeting room at Echelon Biotech was all glass, steel, and quiet respect. Dr. Maria Santos, their director of genetic research, slid the folder across the table. $50 million for the patent, plus a $500K salary, plus royalties. I blinked. Would you like time to consider? She asked. I smiled. No, I'd like to negotiate. 7 days later, I signed. $150 million royalty tier. Division leadership. Full autonomy. Rick tried calling again. I forwarded his email to my lawyer. Too little, too late, and way too small. What if one mug of coffee could bring down a company? I didn't plan to destroy Nixon Labs. I just wanted to protect what was mine. But by the time I signed with Echelon Biotech, the ripple had become a tidal wave. Rick's assault, once hidden behind closed doors, had gone viral. The video me flinching coffee splashing across my lab coat. His voice barking about betrayal was everywhere. News anchors, influencers, even late-night comedians were dissecting it. Coffeegate trended for days. Inside Nixon Labs, the fallout was immediate. 3 of the top engineers resigned. Sarah told me over text, people are jumping ship. No one trusts leadership anymore. 2 major pharmaceutical clients pulled out of joint ventures. Investors began demanding answers and heads. Then came the emergency board meeting. That same afternoon, I received a message I never expected. From the official Nixon Labs email server, no less. Aubrey, I made a mistake. Please come back. We can work something out that benefits everyone. Rick Delaney, too little, too late. I forwarded the message to Janet, my attorney, without even responding. The next day, Rick was no longer CEO. Word spread fast the board had ousted him. Publicly, they cited irreconcilable conduct. Privately, I'm sure they just wanted to stop the bleeding. Then my phone rang again. This time it wasn't Rick. Ms. Lang, the voice was calm. Professional. This is Tom Morrison, interim CEO. May I have a moment? I said yes. Curiosity outweighed any lingering bitterness. Tom didn't dance around it. We failed you. And we failed to recognize your invention's potential. I'd like to extend an offer to bring you back to lead our R&D department under your terms. I paused. I could feel the old rage wanting to answer for me. But instead I said, I'll consider a consulting agreement remote only. 2 hours a week. And I have conditions. Name them, Tom said. 1, a $100,000 annual scholarship for women in biomedical engineering. 2, a zero-tolerance policy for workplace harassment enforced by a third party. And 3, a public apology. Silence. Then done. We'll issue the statement next week. And just like that, Nixon Labs began to atone not through words, but through actions that would ripple beyond me. Rick's mug might have ignited the fire, but I had turned it into something bigger than any of us. The collapse wasn't just of a company's reputation. It was of a system that thought it could own silence and destroy without consequences. Would you take the coffee again if it meant saving her life? The news alert came in while I was reviewing a batch of trial data. Breaking first patient successfully treated with Lang device at Boston Children's Hospital. I froze. The article showed a photo of a little girl, 7 years old, with a shy smile and IV tubes taped to her small arms. Her name was Emma. She had been born with a rare genetic blood disorder, one so aggressive most children didn't survive past 10. But now she was going home. Stable, repaired, alive. I clicked the video embedded in the article. Emma's parents were crying. The lead doctor explained how the Lang device, yes, they were calling it, that had identified and corrected the exact mutation in her bone marrow. This is the future, he said. We're no longer just treating symptoms. We're rewriting the code. I didn't realize I was crying until I felt a tear hit the back of my hand. This was why I built it in the first place. A year ago, I was scraping together parts in my garage covered in soldering dust and doubt. Now a child was alive because I had refused to give up. Because I had said no, even when it cost me everything. The calls came quickly after that. NBC, BBC, Reuters. They all wanted to talk, but one call stood out. Dr. Maria Santos, again. Aubrey, she said, breathless. Emma's case is just the beginning. We have 4 more candidates lined up for treatment next month. All children, all incurable until now. I closed my laptop and walked outside into the morning sun. The world looked sharper somehow. Lighter. I wasn't just someone with a good idea anymore. I was part of a cure. But with the success came something else, the weight. A week later, I received a small envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a crayon drawing Emma's. It showed a girl with a giant red heart on her chest standing beside a woman in a lab coat. Me. On the back, a note in messy handwriting. Thank you for giving me my life, Emma. I held the paper to my chest. If Rick Delaney hadn't thrown that coffee, if I'd caved to pressure, sold my idea, or doubted myself at the wrong moment, Emma might not be here. And that thought was sobering. People often ask if I regret the drama, the lawsuits, the viral spotlight. My answer is always the same. If that coffee hadn't burned my face, I might never have realized how badly the world needed what I had built. So yes, I'd take it again. For Emma, 1,000 times over. What if your story becomes a textbook on how to fight back? The auditorium buzzed with anticipation. The International Conference on Genetic Medicine had never seen this many attendees. I stood backstage holding the clicker for my slides, waiting for the MC to finish introducing me. And now please welcome the scientist behind the DNA repair breakthrough that's saving lives around the world, Aubrey Lang. Applause thundered as I stepped onto the stage. I took a deep breath. A year ago, my boss threw hot coffee in my face because I refused to hand over the rights to a device I built on my own time. Today, that same device has saved over 24 lives, and we're just getting started. The room went quiet. I'm not here to talk about revenge. I'm here to talk about resilience and what it looks like when a system underestimates the wrong woman. I walked them through the journey. The ignored idea, the garage lab, the betrayal, the lawsuit, the breakthrough. I spoke about Emma, the first child saved. About the scholarships, about the young engineers now emailing me from across the world. I ended with a simple slide, a drawing. Emma's drawing, the one she mailed me now, framed in my home office. That got a standing ovation. Afterward, a young woman approached me. Miss Lang, I'm Lisa Chen, Biomedical Engineering, UCLA. I was the first recipient of the Aubrey Lang Scholarship. I was going to quit. But then I saw your story. You made me believe it was still worth it. That night I opened my inbox to dozens more messages, like hers. Some were from students, others from industry leaders. One was from the dean of Stanford asking if I'd guest lecture. Another came from a publisher. Would you consider writing a book? I didn't respond right away. I just sat by my window watching the stars over Wellington. It had been 2 years since Rick Delaney's outburst. He never found another job. The coffee video still haunts him, shared in HR workshops, ethics courses, TED Talks. But I don't think about Rick anymore. I think about the girls building things in garages, the students who almost gave up, the families watching their kids walk out of hospitals healthy. My name's on a patent, yes, but more importantly, it's on a scholarship, a story, a standard. And maybe that's the real legacy. Not just what I created, but what I made possible for everyone who comes next.